Hey guys, Zaman
And Christina
from
from
Our
Our
Rich
Rich
Journey.
Journey.
Today we are talking about the Roth IRA, one of the three pillars of financial independence and retiring early. We have talked about the 401k, we've talked about the HSA, but we haven't talked about the power of the Roth IRA when it comes to investing for financial independence and retiring early. So on today's video, we are going to show you some new things about the Roth IRA and talk to you about how it's so powerful when it comes to pursuing FIRE.
If you're new to our channel is all about making money, saving money, and investing money on the road to financial independence. Amana and I pursued financial independence for 8 years. We reached financial independence, quit our federal government jobs, and retired here in Portugal. Now, we talk about the ways that we reached financial independence, and a lot of it had to do with proper investing. We have so many different investing accounts, but we always focused on maximizing our tax advantages when it came to investing. And so, like Aman said, we talked about our 401ks, we talked about our HSA. In this video, we're going to talk all about the Roth IRA. We're going to talk about why it's so great in terms of tax advantages. We're going to talk about how it's so unique and how it helps people on the road to financial independence. And then we're also going to distinguish the Roth IRA from some of the other different retirement accounts. So maximizing your tax advantage accounts is so important because you're protecting more of your money and you're paying less of it in taxes, which means more of your money gets to grow. So let's first talk about all of the tax advantages associated with a Roth IRA.
I love that. Maximize your tax advantage accounts to minimize the amount of tax that you pay. That should go on a shirt.
So let's first talk about the process of putting your money into a Roth IRA and how that's taxed. So when you're putting money into a Roth IRA, you're using after-tax dollars. You're not getting tax deductions when you're putting your money into your account. But because of this, when you go to pull your money out of your account, once you reach 59.5, you can actually pull all of that money out tax-free.
That money also grows in your account tax-free. So money growing tax-free that you can pull out tax-free, it's a win-win account.
Yes, so it means all of your dividends, all the money that's growing, all of the capital gain associated with this Roth IRA gets to grow tax-free.
So let's answer some big questions about contributions and related to FIRE. When you contribute to your Roth IRA, your contributions you can pull out at any time, tax-free and penalty-free. Notice I said your contributions. Now this is an early retiree's dream, but your dream gets better. If you have a 401k or a traditional IRA, you can roll that money over into a Roth IRA and start to withdraw that money early, penalty-free. We talked about this strategy in a previous video called the Roth conversion ladder and how you can access your retirement money early. Go check out that video to really understand the process for doing these Roth conversions. But the ability to be able to do this with a Roth IRA is amazing for early retirees.
Yes, it is such an amazing account because we have a lot of people that reach out to us and ask us, how can you retire early? All of my money is in my 401k. I can't access it earlier, but you actually can if you use a Roth conversion ladder by taking your 401k, converting it or rolling it over into a traditional IRA and then rolling that over into a Roth IRA. There's a lot of steps involved in it, and like Aman said, we did a video on it, so we'll leave the link to the video in the description below.
So just to emphasize it, to bring it home, just because you have money in traditional retirement accounts doesn't mean you have to wait to a traditional age. You can access that money earlier through a Roth conversion ladder. Now you need to be very responsible when you do this. It also means that you need to plan ahead. But like me and Christina did on our FIRE journey, we put together a FIRE plan.
Now there is one thing I do want to note about pulling out your money penalty free before you've turned 59.5. There is another way that you can do that under the CARES Act, and this was established in 2020, that allows people to pull out up to $100,000 from their Roth IRA or their traditional IRA if they have a COVID-related reason for doing so. But again, that is only the $100,000 and it has to be for a COVID-related reason. So the next thing that we love about Roth IRAs is that it is a great tool to build generational wealth. With Roth IRAs, you actually don't have a minimum distribution requirement. That means there's no requirement that you have to begin pulling out your money. Now, this is different than a traditional IRA and a 401k. With both of those types of retirement accounts, there is a minimum distribution requirement. You have to begin pulling out your money by age 72. This is not a requirement with the Roth IRA. This means that if you don't need the money in your Roth IRA, or if you don't want the money in your Roth IRA, you can continue to allow it to grow and you can pass it on to your heirs after you pass away.
The next amazing thing about a Roth is there is no minimum age to open a Roth. All you need is taxable income and you can open a Roth. That means if your 7-year-old child has taxable income, they can open up a Roth IRA and just watch that money grow. I wish I knew about this when I was 7 years old and I was washing cars or mowing lawns, because that money would have been in a Roth IRA and I would be a quadrillionaire right now. Well, probably not a quadrillionaire, but the point is you don't have this age requirement with Roth IRAs. You can start contributing to them as soon as you have taxable income.
Now, we love this about Roth IRAs because if you're thinking about pursuing financial independence, or if you want your children to begin thinking about pursuing financial independence, the key is getting your money into a retirement account as soon as possible, because your money can grow through those investments for a longer period of time. And again, when it's in a tax advantaged account, you get to protect more of that money. Now, this is very different than a 401k, for example. With 401ks, employers can put limits as to the age that their employees need to be in order to qualify for a 401k. Now, the oldest that they can put that age limit at by law is 21, but more than 50% of employers in the United States require that their employees be 21 in order to begin investing in the 401k plan. With a Roth IRA, that does not apply.
So if you have the ability to open a Roth IRA, do it as soon as possible. Let that money start to build wealth as early as possible, because the longer it's in there, the greater that amount will be.
And I just want to add one more thing for people that are under 18. If they want to open up a Roth IRA, it needs to be a custodial Roth IRA, because people that are minors cannot have their own account. You need to have a custodian account for that. But there are custodial Roth IRAs that you can open for your children if they have taxable income. Another thing that makes Roth IRAs so great is that you can have a Roth IRA account for a spouse that does not work. It's amazing. So the working spouse can actually contribute to the non-working spouse's Roth IRA up to the maximum. So this means you can actually have two fully maxed out Roth IRAs, even if only one spouse works.
And that's something that we did when Christina was in law school. We did not let up on our investments. In fact, we doubled down. You see, this leads to something else about the Roth IRA. If you miss the window to contribute to it, you can't ever go back. So for us, we had to take advantage of every single year that we were eligible to invest in a Roth IRA. Because once you don't invest in that year, you can't go back and make up for it.
So we've talked about how the Roth IRA is taxed differently. We talked about how it's different in terms of minimum required distributions. We also talked about how it's different with age restrictions. But one other thing that makes the Roth IRA so special is that it's not tied to an employer's investment account. It's not tied to something like a 401k is to an employer. And this makes it so beneficial, because with a Roth IRA, you have so many other options for investing as compared to a 401k.
So you can buy individual stocks. You could buy Bitcoins in your Roth IRA if you wanted to. We don't recommend that. But you can buy anything that you want to, as long as the brokerage company that you have your Roth IRA with offers that ability. This is something that you don't have with a 401k. And it makes the decision between funding a 401k and a Roth IRA a hard decision for a lot of people. But go back to our video where we talked about the order of investing. Because if your money is limited, there is an order in which you must prioritize your investments. Do you put it in your 401k first, in your Roth IRA, in your HSA, in whatever whatever those accounts may be. You should have that plan in place. But the Roth IRA, when it's stacked up against the many other accounts that you can invest in, it is a very powerful account for those pursuing financial independence.
Now, there's one thing that we do want to point out with a Roth IRA. If you have a modified adjusted gross income that falls above a certain threshold, you cannot contribute directly to your Roth IRA. So for single individuals, Roth IRA contributions aren't allowed if the modified adjusted gross income is $139,000 or more for 2020. And for married people filing jointly, Roth IRA contributions aren't allowed if the modified adjusted gross income is $206,000 or more for 2020. But with a backdoor Roth IRA, you can actually work around these income requirements by taking money from your traditional IRA and converting it over to a Roth IRA. This means you can have a Roth IRA without going about the standard way for creating one and distributing money directly into a Roth IRA. Now, a backdoor Roth IRA is very complicated. We're going to save that for another video, but we do want to just let you know that there is a way to have a Roth IRA even if you surpass those income thresholds.
So those are the things that we like about the Roth IRA for those pursuing FIRE. If you don't have one, you should seriously consider opening one. And if you already have one, we hope that you're maximizing it to the best of your ability. And as usual, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and
Join the journey.